Metal Gear Solid 4 has got to be one of my favorite games of all times. Something that should really say something because the entire reason has very little to do with the gameplay. It's an experience that is simultaneously a love letter that wraps up a game that I've spent the majority of my life loving, as well as a sad, miserable thing to play that didn't want to be created in the first place. Hideo Kojima, for those who are uninitiated, is the creator of the franchise, this action-packed movie more or less, that centers around the philosophy of existence, what our purpose is, and whether or not nature or nurture truly creates who we are as an individual. Game after game digs into this question of who we are and what we're meant to do, as destiny is orchestrating everything. What controls you as a person and what you want to do? How bound are you to your ideals, or better yet, where did you get those ideals from in the first place? This first game wonderfully tackles the idea of doing what you're told from an environment, but carries on, believing that the mission is what matters the most. Otacon in this regard is a great addition to the game, foiling Snake by questioning everything, having trouble carrying on in his life, and not having much conviction to do anything without force. He does, however, let him shine through in his work, programming flaws in a Metal Gear, making cool anime stealth suits, and being the first person in the series that wets himself. That's a feat. The second game introduces Raiden, a person whose whole life is controlled more or less by others. He carries out what he's told to be done, no matter how horrendous, and only learns to question it later. I feel Kojima let a bit of himself into the situation here, as he only made this series due to the demands of others, following the call to make another game even though he previously didn't want to. The graphics had improved, but there's this allusion to the past that keeps popping up. The main character is extensively prepped on the events of the previous game, and it's brought up as a fond memory. The player even gets callbacks to specific events in the last game, with some events parroting or even parodying things that happened in the last game. But it's the fourth game that takes that illusion of the previous games and completely nostalgizes it. Snake no longer is this agile character that's sneaking around. He's old now, barely recognizable from his previous self. Sure, he still does the same things, but they're noticeably different now. He grunts as he moves around on the map. Characters barely recognize him, and instead of revering him for his efforts like in previous games, now it's met with more pity. He's in constant pain, seeming to move forward through sheer willpower alone. It's even wondered why he should be doing anything at all. The strike team that he's working with can handle things on their own. Kind of. And he's mostly just messed with at every step along the way in his attempts to stop his antagonist. Something that I kind of see with the games of today, especially with franchises that have been going on for a long time. If Metal Gear Solid 2 was Kojima asking what makes a sequel when you have the original, this was him wondering, why won't the past die? Why does it forcefully prevail even though time is passing? Traditions thrust themselves forward into the past, and our genes tell us to look back and remember that we're the future. But it all really amounts to a lie. And even the lie is a lie now. New video games are traditionally that way. We consume them in similar ways of the past, but everything has changed now. Around the time of this game's creation, the idea of the lone, passionate developer was slowly losing its way as companies become larger, losing that sense of self, and developing games that are almost unrecognizable. War, as Snake says, has changed. I've actually got this fear of losing loved ones, one that I'm sure is shared with everyone. And something that people don't tell you is that, as you get older, eventually, if you're fortunate enough to have them, your parents are going to get old. The once spry young faces that you've come to know and love will, and without you even knowing it, morph into an older version, as your face begins to take their place. F is for Family is a Netflix original that looks a bit just like any other adult cartoon, but the humor is just enough to keep me invested. And there's a scene that kind of sticks with me. Throughout parts of the show, the main character, Frank, often looks back to his father, fearfully, seeing him as a bully of a man that more or less had tortured him throughout his childhood. After years of not talking to him, upon seeing his face again, he has a jarring realization that his father is no longer the strong-built man that Frank once cowered from. He's just a weaker, sadder old man now that has done a lot of reflecting of his past and coming to terms with it. This mental image in your head of what someone's like just sticks in your mind until you finally see that person again after years. It's a weird feeling that always makes me feel awkward, as you can also see this when you look back at video games that you loved when you were a child, and seeing it now. Barring the aforementioned Metal Gear series, Pokemon is actually a recent hit for me in this regard. I used to love the show when I was younger and was captivated by the dialogue and the emotional story beats, but the series is unrecognizable to me now. It doesn't look bad, and I suppose it could be argued that it still has the same heart. And you'd have to argue pretty fucking hard. But this isn't the Ash that I grew up with. This isn't even my Pikachu. Who the hell are any of these admittedly adorable creatures? And yes, the irony of nostalgia baiting at the end of the series and me not recognizing it when compared to the ones that I watched isn't really lost on me. But it's like this for so many other things. The Simpsons, Magic the Gathering, Call of Duty. I actually have nostalgia for that game. They're all things that I've grown up with, but they're kind of just not the same anymore. I'll never get that excitement of pulling my first combo off in Mortal Kombat again, nor will it feel the same when I achieve it again. Even coming back to a game that I once loved won't hit me the same or as hard. Solving a puzzle and the preluding aha from Link's Awakening will never happen again. Learning how to play Tetris again for the first time and that slow yet gradual understanding of what to do won't hit as hard. There's just no word that sums up this feeling, but it's like nostalgia for learning something for the first time again, and it kinda sucks. It's not all bad. There's games that I could still play and get similar nostalgic feelings from. Beat Saber and learning the mechanics take me back to playing Osu for the first time. Seeing something daunting appear before my screen and slowly being able to tackle it to a beat of a song that I love, or finding new ones that become a quick playlist add. I might suck at Street Fighter 6, but actually being somewhat competent at this game reminds me of the ass whoopings I used to dish out on my family in Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I know it's disrespectful to long for the past when you have so many good things right in front of you, but reality gets so surreal when you're faced with the crumbling reality of what's in front of you has aged more than you have. And I can't explain why, but returning to Shadow Moses Island in Metal Gear Solid 4 always makes me feel such a painful happiness. It's bittersweet to return to a game that I didn't play it back then, I had to watch my cousin play it, but a game that was ingrained into my mind as something that was so amazing, and coming back to it and seeing how much it aged. The graphics weren't as good anymore, the AI CPU was poor back then, even the voice acting was a bit over the top. But when I saw them as a child, these were such a marvel to behold. Looking at the same place now as an adult, through Snake's eyes, seeing the environment fall apart as some of the most stunning music plays, all the while voice clips from the first game are being spoken. Kojima, I love you. As a friend, of course. Those games were a masterpiece, but they're nowhere near as good as the nostalgia makes them out to be. I can sit through and deal with the stiff, rigged movement, awful controls, and blurry graphics because I'm reliving more than I'm enjoying. I guess I changed. There's no real going back, even though I can turn my brain off to these issues that have been ironed out for the future games. But that level of simplicity that I enjoyed from it all hit me so hard when I came back for that little bit of time in Metal Gear Solid 4. Just like I hope you come back tomorrow. Thanks for watching.